Welcome in, everybody. We are on a new episode of the Exp Talk Show. I am your host, Steve, or Konky, or Konky Talks, whatever you prefer. Our guest today is Ashlinaa, who is a content creator, model, fantastic human being, has her own podcast, and like all of our previous episodes, it's very conversational. We've got some stuff we talked about prior to this conversation that we'll be touching on. But yeah, we're going to be sharing some perspective, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Ashlinaa, welcome in.
Hi. Okay,
Hi.
First of all, your name is Steve?
Yeah.
I don't know why that I giggled at that, but I was like, you just don't look like a Steve. But I don't know, now that I know that your name is Steve, you don't look like any other name, so I don't know. It caught me off guard.
Yeah. Well, I guess like my like actual name is Stefan with an A-N.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Or Stavros if we're going like whole Greek side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's not on my birth certificate, okay?
It's okay. Ashlinaa's not either, but that's what I prefer. So, yeah. But no, thank you so much for inviting me to be on. The Steve caught me off guard. Okay. I just had to mention
You're totally fine.
I know you as Konky, and I'm going to call you Konky. So whatever. But yeah, hi, my name is Ashlinaa. I am a variety content creator as well as Twitch broadcaster. You can honestly catch me doing so many things across social media, whether it's fashion, photography, modeling, makeup, hair, DIYs. I mean, like literally all of the things. I like to dip my toes into a bunch of things and play video games. Yeah, that's kind of me. I also love Halloween and horror.
No way.
If you couldn't tell. I do call myself the Hallow Queen as well, so
that's what I was literally just like, okay, we gotta bring up the Halloween Queen title for sure.
Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, fall all year round in that part of the world.
Oh yeah, Halloween and fall just like eternal, 100%.
You got the Lego pumpkins back there, the Mike Myers mask, the Keanu pillow, which is a nice touch too.
Yeah, I had to. Love that man.
Great
that
human
man.
being.
Yeah, he's a gift to this planet. We must keep him forever if we can, please.
There's I wanted to talk about with the show, we always focus on like the experience of like the person before they got into content creation. So before you started streaming and modeling even, what was life like for Ashlinaa before she like decided she was gonna embark on this whole, creator space, artist space? It's a big question.
Ashlinaa, prior to streaming and kind of content creation, like the creative space, really wanted to make her family proud. Because at that time, I wanted to do really well in school. That was like a big goal of mine. And then I wanted to go to college and graduate because I would be the first in my family to do so. So I really wanted to make my family proud and do all of those things. And at that time, I was getting my psychology degree. I wanted to be a counselor. I wanted to counsel folks and like help people and stuff like that. I was really driven to do that.
Really quick, how did you land on like that choice? That seems very specific, like wanting to help other people like with like process their emotions or like where they're at in life. Like how did you end up in that position?
Right. So as a freshman, you go into college, you don't really know what to expect. All little Ashlinaa wanted to do was like model and like be in the fashion world. But what she also wanted to do was be a forensic scientist. And like, I don't know exactly what
double
it's
threat.
called. No, she wanted to collect the blood at the crime scenes and like go back to the lab and like do DNA and all that stuff. I don't know.
That's cool as fuck. Okay.
I really wanted to. I was really into CSI Miami and like CSI Las Vegas and all that stuff. Okay.
That's not embarrassing. Okay. Like some people get inspired and they want to get into these fields because of that. Yeah.
I loved it. Okay.
Okay.
I was into it. So anyways, I wanted to do like DNA and blood and stuff. And so I started out as a biology major because you kind of have to like do biology, obviously, for the blood part, and then go into forensics and stuff like that. So, but I was not good at college level biology.
Okay.
Not as good as I was in high school. Yeah, they don't prepare you for like how big of a step the classes are. And so I was failing, and my parents were like, we need you to get the Hope Scholarship back, or like we can't pay for you to continue to go to this school, because it was pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And I just couldn't do it. It was just very, very difficult for me. And like I would go to tutoring and stuff like that, and it just wasn't working. And I took my first psychology class, instantly hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I've always had like an internal desire to like help people and spread kindness and stuff. Little Ashlinaa has always felt like she has, I mean, same now, but like inspire people and be someone, either for herself or for others. Just be someone. And so I took my first psychology class. I was like, this is dope. The fact that we're learning about the human brain and like all of the things that we go through. And like, honestly, at the time, as a Latina, I was kind of told my whole life to like not think about stuff like that, like depression, anxiety, brain things. Rub some dirt in it.
Yeah.
Keep going, kind of thing.
Pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right.
Shut the fuck up. It's not important. It's the past. You can move on.
Right. Why are you crying? Like, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, people like feel things like so deeply.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I do too, but I just haven't processed it yet. So, yeah, I went in that direction. And then I was doing some counseling at a rehab, which was really, really difficult.
Wow.
Very emotionally difficult. And
yeah, I can only imagine what that like, that is, that environment in general. Like, you're talking about people who like need the most help in probably the lowest points in their life at a certain point, right? So
and the things that they were going through and the things that they were explaining to me, that their actions were the result of an addiction, I just could not like wrap my mind around it.
Yeah.
Like what they would do to themselves and to their family to, you know, fixate and like fix those parts of themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt so horrible. Like it broke my heart. All of it broke my heart. And so I was like, okay, maybe I just like don't want to do like therapy, and maybe I didn't know what I wanted at that point. I just knew that counseling and therapy was really hard, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make a choice until I got my master's. So
yeah,
it's year 1 of my master's, and you know, I'm back home, living at home, and
that's all right. You said we'd have special guests.
Oh yeah. And I fall into such a deep depression. I mean, I was very, very low. Would it
be okay if we talked a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've talked about it before with my community and everything. I mean, it was like,
was it related to like coming back home and like feeling like you were a failure, or like what was it?
I think so. And then also like from a psychology standpoint, too much change at once can really like send your body and your brain into a little bit of panic.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think living on my own, you know, going to college, having all of my friends, everyone that I loved spending time with, you know, every single day, to coming back home, not seeing my friends, not hanging out, having to do school at home, you know, for my master's, and like dealing with family and dealing with all of those things. I was just like, I think it was just a lot of change for my body. And then, kind of feeling like a failure because I could not find a job. And all of my professors were like, you probably aren't going to be able to find a job until you get your master's. And I'm like, oh my God, well, how am I supposed to get experience for these jobs? You know, they're asking me to have 4 years of experience, but they won't hire me because I don't have experience. It just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense.
Welcome to like America, where like you need 4 years of experience for like an entry level position. It's
I know,
completely ass backwards. Yeah.
And I'm like telling these folks that I'm applying, I'm like, listen, I just got out of college. Like, I need the experience.
Yeah.
Or, and
what do you want me to do? Yeah.
Right. And it was just no. And I was like, this fucking sucks. Excuse my language, but
no, you're fine. You're totally got permission to swear here. Okay.
It fucking sucked.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it really sent me into a low place.
Yeah.
And super. Yeah. I've been that depressed before, but that was like, ooh, that was rough. I felt lied to a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because society and everyone else makes college and like all of that whole thing seem like just like the greatest thing, which it was. The college experience was so great, but knowing that I was going to have to make an adult decision at 18 years old that was going to basically shape the rest of my life, and then get out of college and you can't freaking find a job, and I just felt lied to.
With
I was just
debt
like,
too. So it's like
that too.
How do you figure this shit out? Like none of this was given to you. It's like, but again, like, I don't know. I mean, you're dealing with like the idealization of like what life is supposed to be like when you go to college, leave college, and then like your life starts. But like when you don't experience that crash, that conflict of what you thought was reality and reality not being that, like, I totally understand why you would be so low. Like, how could you not be so disappointed in yourself, the reality that is actually like happening in front of you? And then you also have, possible. And for me, it was more about like my experience was there was a lot of judgment about like, why aren't you in a job in the field that you like got a degree in? Because now you finish college, right? So like now you get a job. And I went to art school and like I wanted to work in gaming, and when I started there, like you, I had the conflict of like, oh, you're supposed to have a portfolio when you take a gaming degree, when you want to pursue a gaming degree, and you don't have that. I'm like, how would I have made a portfolio before? I thought I was going to college for that.
Yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, well, no. That was during school. Like they wanted a portfolio to pursue. I was like, excuse me, I'm learning here. Like, aren't I supposed to make a portfolio here and learn the skills to like pursue the degree, and then like I graduate with the degree and then I work in the gaming space? Or like you're telling me I should have had this before then? And then that was a whole thing. But then going back home was the worst, because it was like, dude, why don't you have a job? I have a job. I went to college. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. Neurodivergent boy, undiagnosed ADHD. I had to figure that shit out for myself. Like 18 years old, it's impossible. So I understand why you got to that space. Yeah.
And my first freaking job out of college was a retail job.
Same. Best Buy. Yeah. 3 years, baby.
You know what I mean? Like, it fucking sucked. And I was like, I'm letting everybody down, especially myself, because like this was like my dream. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, this sucks. And then I was just like, one day I was just randomly like laying in bed through my like depressive episode, and I was like, I'm just gonna start a fashion blog. And so I started a fashion blog and a YouTube, and I started doing makeup and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I fell into the rest of it. It was the outlet that kind of got me out of that episode, essentially, that state I was in. So,
and I know you mentioned this in your YouTube, like on your YouTube channel, you did a Q&A video, and you talked about how you enjoyed like creation and artistry prior to like the internet existing, and that had a lot to do with like how your family creates art. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Anyway, they're just having a wrestling match back there, my cats. So my mom's side of the family is like super artistic. My mom is a fantastic writer, like gorgeous, like poems and stuff like that, and stories and stuff like that. And then my uncle, he is a great painter. And then a couple of my cousins play guitar and sing. Another cousin sings. My brother writes music currently right now and is like so good at it. So I've always like, and then my aunt on my dad's side, she does crafts and art and stuff like, so I've always had it like around me, that artistic stuff. And I loved it. I was like, this is so cool. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Like being around them when they were, I don't know if indulging is the right word, but you know, when they were practicing and just like doing their own thing, I just loved being around it. And I felt like I could do the same, essentially. I think I was like, oh, if they could do this, like I could do this.
Well,
like,
how could you not be? You know, you're like surrounded by artists.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So how did you decide like the medium? You know? Like how did you decide that like modeling was like the well, I guess let's start with like what you started practicing first. Like what did you feel like spoke to you?
So that the fashion blog, you know, taking my own pictures with the outfits and everything like that. And I modeled as a kid. I modeled when I was 13 for a couple of years. And so I really liked the camera and like being in front of the camera and just like working with the camera and working with outfits and stuff like that. And as I got a little bit older, my aunt actually came to me and she was like, hey, I used to be a professional model in Europe. And she like opened up her portfolio and like showed me, and I was like,
that's a huge inspiration. That's great.
I want to do this, you know? And like, if you look back at like my childhood photos, like I was always like dressing up and like doing runway shows like on the fireplace mantle and stuff like that. Like I was always like into fashion and things like that. And so seeing that, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I didn't know that it could expand to this kind of level. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess my brain just hadn't, I've seen models. I know what it is, but I guess my brain hadn't like realized that they had to start small to get where, I don't know.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, I'm doing this. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so I started, you know, pursuing modeling and taking photos and getting kind of like a portfolio together. And then actually one of my friends from high school, Jefferson, he got signed at the modeling agency. And I was like, I really want to try and do this. He was like, yeah, you've always been like super into this. He's like, I'll talk to my agent and see what she says. And he sent her my Instagram and she was like, I would love for Ashley to come in. I would love to talk to her. And then I got signed. And it was like,
that's huge.
It was like, and like I get really emotional about it because we can go into it, which I know we are, but like getting diagnosed with Hashimoto's like ruined that for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that whole, I mean, you found that, especially with the momentum, right? So like there's all this momentum behind, you know, doing all this stuff. And also like Hashimoto's disease, we can talk a little bit more about that, of course, but the dealing with the symptoms before diagnosis and struggling with that and like not having the terminology or like understanding what was going on. You're just like, oh, I'm just tired. I'm not sleeping enough. I'm eating poorly. You're like trying to figure it out. Like, so in terms of, I guess I haven't done as much research as you have because you live with it. Like, how did you discover that? Was it when you got into modeling? Like, that's when things started to kind of like get worse, or?
So, I was modeling for a couple of years already, and I did kind of notice like a slowdown in my energy, like after, and like, don't get me wrong, like, and it doesn't help that when I pose, like I kind of hold my breath, so that doesn't help. But like I would notice after shoots, I'd be like, I'm like really tired, like I'm exhausted, like, you know. And don't get me wrong, posing, it's an art form, and I take a lot of pride in my posing, and you know, it's a lot of holding your body in certain positions, and like it's an art form with the photographer. It's a relationship that you share. That's what I love the most, I think, about it. It's just like the flow of it.
Yeah.
It's art.
Yeah.
it's acting, but still acting, you know?
Yeah.
And I just,
Well, you're trying to capture like an energy and like there's a
right,
whole, it's not just
exactly.
taking photos, right? There's like a
No,
whole reason behind the shoot and what you guys
right,
are going for and what kind of energy you're
right,
trying to capture and convey
exactly.
to people who are viewing the photo, whether it's in an advertisement or wherever.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I just, oh, I love it. Like, I love it so much. I just
Yeah.
love that flow of
A lot
energy
of a
flowing.
lot of people see that like on the face, like just the face value of it, like, oh, just
Right.
taking like you can easily pass
No,
judgment and dismiss it, but like when you understand the ingredients and how like a successful photo or marketing campaign works, like then you understand what model, like how a model fits into like
right.
that,
And
batch of
all of the
things.
hard work that goes into it. Like,
Yeah.
I wish that I knew like how to vlog at the time that I was modeling, because I
Oh,
would have
sure.
loved to take y'all like on shoots and like show you just how much work goes into these things. And it's like 12, 14-hour days. Like, it's
Yeah.
not just,
One and done.
some,
Yeah.
right. No, some shoots are short, but anyway,
Yeah.
I just love that.
So the long days, like
Yeah,
for
I just
sure.
noticed, I was like, I'm just really tired. But
Yeah.
like, that makes sense because, my agent, she'd be like, well, you hold your breath when you pose, like you're tiring your body out. Like, you need to learn how to whatever. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And then it was Miami Swim Week, and I was trying out for shows and stuff like that. It was actually the Miami Swim Week that I went to. It was the first swim week that Sports Illustrated did an open casting. And I was like, I'm going to that. Like, this is a history thing, like, because Sports Illustrated doesn't do open castings. So I went to Miami Swim Week and I was doing all this stuff, and I was working out 2 to 3 times a day to like get my body kind of prepared for the runway and stuff like that. And I just remember getting home from that trip disappointed because all of the shows that I tried out for ended up not being exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I don't know, it's kind of shady and like all this stuff. And like, they already had their models picked out, but they were doing castings. And it's like, why am I here if you already have your models picked out? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I wasted my time essentially.
Yeah.
And I got home from that trip and I was like, this is the most exhausted I've ever been in my entire life. Like, I'm so tired. Like, this is a soul deep kind of tired that I can't explain. And I kind of just like brushed it off. And I was like, maybe I was just kind of stressed from the trip, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. You're
And
trying
I
to
was
like logic your way through
right,
it.
exactly. And I was continuing my workout regimen and stuff I went back down to once a day, but I just remember getting home after my workouts and I'd be like, holy crap, I feel like I could sleep for days. Like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
And I was just like getting sick constantly, sleeping all the time, and just like, I knew something was up. And I was like, there's no way with me eating the way that I'm eating and with my workout regimen that I should feel like this. Like, I felt like shit, for real. It was awful. And so I went to the doctor. I was like, something's up. Like, I don't know what it is, but like, maybe I have a vitamin deficiency or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good
And
start.
they were like, no, we think it's your anxiety. And I'm like, no. Like, yes.
You would know how anxious you are, like, to
right,
exhaust you, to that point. Yeah.
I've lived with anxiety, since I was young. I got diagnosed when I was in 7th grade. It's not anxiety. Thank you very much. I would know what that feels like, and it's not this. And they would do the blood test. They'd be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. And then one time they blamed it on the sinus infection that I had at the time. And I was like, oh, whatever, like, I'm just gonna brush it off.
How long did that back and forth happen?
It took me a year and a half to get diagnosed.
Dude, that's so fucking frustrating.
Oh, I mean, you want to talk about medical gaslighting?
Yeah.
To the max. I was beyond frustrated.
I cannot believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what happens though. And I want people to understand that like, women of color, people of color, but also Black women, like, they experience this the most.
Oh yeah.
And like, it is so freaking frustrating. And
well, they have just to add on to that, I know that this isn't like the topic of the conversation, but like
Right.
my wife went to school for nursing, and the medical textbooks described African American women having higher pain tolerances. Like that's in a textbook being taught in a medical school. Like all those studies and like when we were having, you know, all of the information being conveyed across TikTok related to like people of color and their experiences in the medical system, and like that whole book got open, I was like, and then my wife validated it with her real life experience. I was like, that is fucking absolutely crazy. Like that we are at that space where when we're talking about systemic racism, like that's part of it, is the education around like people of color and how they're treated differently. So like, you know, I'm sure every doctor you talked to was a man, you know, like, so that makes it even worse. Like not only that, it's just sexist, you know? So
right. And I was like, and I've been going to this doctor's office since I was a kid, and I was like, I'm gonna find someone else because this is absolutely ridiculous. And so I searched for a doctor in the city because that is how desperate I was to, like,
of course,
you know,
like this is drastically affecting your life, and you cannot wait for somebody to just take blood work and find something.
And I mean, they told me to take vitamins and stuff, and I was like, okay, like whatever, sure. But I was like, I'm literally crying in your office telling you like something is wrong with me. And I am paying, you know, the copayment. I am paying the copayment to come here. I don't want to give you my money. I don't want to give you my money if I don't have to. So, you know,
I'm not coming here to be here for fun, you guys.
I don't want to be here. So I found a doctor and I just cried to her. I was like, please help me. Like, seriously, I feel like shit. I feel the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. And she's like, we're going to do a full panel, thyroid, organ, like everything. Like, we're going to do a full. And lo and behold, came back Hashimoto's.
And they do that because of the thyroid damage that can happen from the disease, right?
Right. Well, essentially, so I guess it's an autoimmune marker. It's a type of marker within the blood that they look for. It's like there's a level that they have to look for in the blood, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. Thyroid people will know, but I can't remember it off the top. Like
it's
TH1
totally fine.
Or something, whatever.
You're fine. Yeah.
So anyway, there's a certain blood marker that they have to look for. And at my previous doctor, the one that like gaslit me for like a year and a half, they were like, I mean, you could maybe have some thyroid problems, but we're just like not seeing it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I got that phone call that my test came back positive for Hashimoto's, and I just cried.
Of course.
Out of relief and out of my entire life is gonna change.
Yeah, you have to grieve.
Oh my God, Konky, when I tell you, and that's why I cry about like modeling and stuff, is because I did have to stop doing that because of the exhaustion and just everything. And that was my dream. That was my dream, you know. And I'm sitting there talking to my agent, and I'm like, I just got diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. And she's like, Ashley, you know, like, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, I don't think it's a smart decision for me to keep doing this right now until I figure out what needs to happen for me, you know. It was so hard for me, and I grieve that, you know. But for those who don't know what Hashimoto's disease is, it is an autoimmune disorder in which every time my thyroid secretes the hormones that my body needs. And if you didn't know, your thyroid is the powerhouse of your body. It's your skin, your hair, your nails, your organs, everything. It like just kind of keeps all those processes going, digestion, blah, blah, blah. Every time my thyroid secretes the hormones that my body needs to function, my immune system attacks it like a foreign body. So instead of attacking sicknesses and like infections and stuff that I get in my body, it instead attacks my thyroid. And the symptoms vary from person to person, but mine is chronic fatigue, muscle soreness, stiffness of my joints, swelling. I mean, hair, like just losing my hair in clumps, anxiety, depression, all of those things. So yeah, that is what it is, and it sucks. Really bad.
Yeah. I mean, like when it comes down to it, right? It's like how do you move forward from that? Because like I don't have an autoimmune disorder. I don't I know what it's like to grieve. Like I got diagnosed with ADHD and when I was 26.
Right.
And then re-diagnosed like when I was 32 because I didn't do anything about it.
Right.
And so I had to grieve, you know, my whole childhood of being misunderstood and being a class clown and being told I should do better and how I should be learning and failing classes and like not being able to do things. But to mourn your physical ability, to grieve your physical ability, and in an industry that is so physically demanding, how long, and I know you're still probably processing it, obviously you still have emotions, you know, related to like the loss of that. How did you decide like where to go after that? I feel like anybody would, obviously time is needed, right? But like how do you even decide direction, you know, where to go? Who did you talk to? What did you do after diagnosis? Like how was that?
Right. So the first, I would say like year and a half, maybe even 2 years, I just figured it out, which I look back at that moment and I'm like, I don't even know like how I did it either, you know, but it was a lot of, for me,
you didn't have a choice, right? So it's like,
no,
you know, you have to deal with you were dealt cards, right? So you got to fucking play them.
Right.
But like, how did you, let's get into that.
I think like, I know for me, like knowledge is power. So it was like, okay, get all the books that I can. And
understand
not only,
yourself.
And not only this, I had found out during the time that I was going through the process of getting diagnosed that my aunt has Hashimoto's disease and my mom has Hashimoto's disease.
And they didn't tell you about it?
They didn't. They had no idea. They had no idea. They
didn't know they had it?
Yeah, no, they did. My mom did not know that she had Hashimoto's disease until 20 years. She just happened to look at her portal, because now we have portals now where we can see your medical stuff.
Yeah.
And she saw Hashimoto's disease and she's like, she called her doctor and she's like, why did you not tell me that I had this? They didn't tell her.
That's nuts, dude.
Right. So, and my aunt, I don't know how she didn't really understand it, or there's not a lot of research on it, Konky, which is like nuts. It's, yes, I know. I know. It sounds fake, but it's not, I promise.
I am dumbfounded that, like, again, America medical care system, but like when it comes down to it, it's like, oh, Hashimoto's disease, and then it's like this goes uploaded to your, like, what the fuck, dude? That's such a life-altering, like, immune disorder. Like, why would you not inform your patients?
Right.
And maybe they just didn't know. Like, I want to assume positive intent, but at the same time, it's like, why are you still working if you don't even know what the fuck this is?
Right.
Oh my God, I'm so mad for you, even though you've already experienced this. Fucking wild, dude.
I know. No.
Sorry to derail.
No.
I'm just like,
no, and we can definitely like talk about that, because like it's very difficult to go through this process and not feel, it feels like I'm sometimes talking to a freaking brick wall, because they don't learn about this stuff in school. And if they do, I don't know why they don't dive into it a little further.
I would expect a medical practitioner to be, I don't know, practicing about learning the latest things, even if it was just like, oh, I've never seen Hashimoto's disease before, but the panel came back. Like, I'm going to look into this, and then I'm going to go get with my patient. We're going to try to like figure this out, or I'm going to recommend a specialist.
Right.
You know, because it's out of my field. Like, I'm just going to tell you, I don't really know much about it, but you have it, and it's a big deal.
Right.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Which my current doctor, she was like that. She was like, I don't really know what to do from here, so I'm going to recommend a specialist.
That's so important. Yeah.
Right. But my first doctor, like, honestly, fuck him. But
yeah, fuck him.
My mom's doctor told her, he was like, I thought you knew. And she was like, no, like I had no idea. So my aunt and my mom always knew that they had like hypothyroidism, which is the slowdown of your thyroid. Those are kind of more common, hypothyroidism as well as hyperthyroidism.
Okay.
Like thyroid conditions are pretty common. Hashimoto's is like that next like wow, like
well, yeah,
level
immune
of, like,
disorder. Yeah, it's a disease.
Complete
Yeah.
shutdown of your thyroid. So she always knew like she had hypo, but she saw Hashimoto's and she was like, holy crap, you know? And so I'm learning that through this whole process, you know?
Wait, hold on. So recap really quick. So you got diagnosed. Your mom didn't know prior to you getting diagnosed?
I think she probably found out the same time ish.
So about like 4 or 5 years ago was when you got diagnosed. And
yeah. And
so you, your mom, and your aunt, did you guys like all find out around the same time?
No, my aunt knew.
Okay.
But she was currently in the process of trying to put her body in remission, which means like going back to normal, which is like really hard to do, and it takes a lot of money, and like a lot of resources and time that I just don't have, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, America. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Healthcare.
Yeah.
And yeah, my mom was just like, I always knew I had hypo, but she was looking at me. She's like, you're so young, like, and you're working out and you're eating so healthy. Like, I didn't think like that's what it was. She honestly thought it was like my anxiety and depression as well. My mom didn't know. She had no idea. You know what I mean? Like,
well, also there's a lot of like assumption about like, you know, your body, you know, you're young, you can eat, you're eating very well. So like, how could you get an immune disorder or a disease?
Exactly.
You know, it's like,
she felt bad. She felt like blindsided kind of too, because she was like, I was just looking at you and I just thought, no way. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
And then we learned through everything that it is hereditary, you know, and things like that. So anyways, it's been a very long
family educated thing happening.
Absolutely. Because I feel like prior to like my diagnosis, like I did not hear a word about any of this kind of stuff. Like not even a single little peep from anybody about an autoimmune disorder.
No.
I thought disease, and this is me just being totally ignorant and not knowing, but like I thought a disease meant like you're on your way to cancer. Like I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what
or you like acquire it. Like it's from something, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I had no idea that this is like what it was, you know. So my knowledge was at zero. So I bought every book I could think of. I watched every YouTube video I could ever watch. You know, I really tried to educate myself on,
because it's a part of you now. Yeah. So it's like, now I have to understand this part of myself that was completely overlooked for all of that time. Right. So yeah.
Right. And, you know, I'm also like telling my mom all of the things that I'm learning, because she had kids. She like did the dang thing, you know,
lived a whole fucking life prior to like you getting diagnosed. And she just assumed she was just tired from living.
Right, exactly.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
I know. I think of it like,
what
it
a
sounds
strong person. Like,
no, I know it. I think about it all the time. I'm like, God, this sounds so fake, but it's really not. So lots of education and just teaching myself all of the things that I needed to do. I started a food journal. I started writing down all of the things that hurt my body, made my body feel better as far as food, because like, you know, my digestive system's kind of like messed up now.
Yeah.
But also like same thing that you were talking about with your ADHD diagnosis. A lot of things from my childhood made so much more sense. I was always sick, like always having problems. Digestive issues. Also, you know, and I think this is important that everybody knows this as well. Like, it really messes with your menstrual cycle, like really bad.
Yeah.
And I was always having horrible periods. Like I would faint, I would pass out.
Oh my God.
And not only during like my menstrual cycle, but like any random time I could just pass out or throw up or whatever. I was just always sick. And it just made so much sense. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, holy, yeah.
You were living with it for so long, so you thought it was normal. right? Like, so you just, I mean, there
Right.
was no education at home. Your parents didn't think it was
No.
normal. They were like, oh, she's just, you know, she just got sick. She
Right.
goes to school. People get sick at school. Like,
Right.
nothing's wrong.
Right.
But yeah, that's it. I'm so glad you got that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But go on. Sorry.
No. And
Yeah.
at the time, like while I was modeling, I was doing streaming as well.
You were
I've been
streaming and modeling. Okay.
I have been streaming for 8 years, since 2015, and I started
Nice.
modeling in 2016. So
Okay.
no, 2015. So streaming and modeling were hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, like when my community helped me, like helped pay for my flight and stuff to get me to New York Fashion Week, and I walked in my first like New York Fashion Week, and some of my community members showed up and stuff like that. I remember that, like it was hand in hand. It was awesome.
That's so
And
great.
yeah, no, it was amazing. And so I was like, I have streaming, I have content creation, you know, I still have that part of me. I can't model right now and like do that part, but at least I have content creation, you know. And I really honestly like fell into content creation a little bit harder, and streaming, of course, and educating other people.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even joking, I would have never even known in my entire life that it existed unless I got diagnosed.
Yeah. Well, how could you not be an advocate after, you know, all of that experience? Like, it's something that if it was invisible for you for so long, maybe it was invisible for somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. And so now I'm like, go get your thyroid checked. Like, you know, you might not have Hashimoto's, but you could have hypo, which is a slowdown of your thyroid. You know, like I'm always like an advocate for that. Go get your vitamin levels checked because those affect things too. You know, like I'm always like telling people around me, just like take care of yourself. Like you deserve to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so I guess it was about year 2, I hit another low point, another depressive episode, and it was really bad. It was really bad. And I don't know how like deep I can go into it, but a lot of suicidal thoughts. I just wanted it to be over. Like I was like, how
every day you're dealing with this.
Right.
Like, every day. What? Like how can you like waking up every day and being exhausted, you know, having to be so conscientious of like what you're eating, where you're at, you know, the anxiety around like those symptoms and like being in a public place. If you're on your period and then having to, you know, like accommodate that extra variable, like, do I go anywhere? Where do I go? Like,
what do I do?
Yeah. What do I do? Like, I understand how you could get so low, where you'd be at that point.
It was rough. And I felt very alone because my mom was like, oh, well, I dealt with it, so you can.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know I had it. So like, you can deal with it. And then I had my aunt like going into remission, like, oh, you'll be fine. Like, it's, you know, just do this and do this. And I'm like, sure, whatever. I just
you're getting all this judgment and agreements that are being put onto you. And it's like, that's not my situation. It's not the same for me. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you, and this is me just like spreading some info a little bit, but if you have a family member or a loved one that says like, I have this diagnosis, please don't like try and be like, oh, well, you should try this.
Yeah.
No. I don't know how many times I got, oh, well, you should, because I'm a pescatarian. I eat chicken like occasionally because I do have really low iron, like it's really bad.
Sure. Yeah.
But like, oh, you should eat red meat again. Oh, well, maybe if you worked out in the morning instead of at night, like all of this stuff. I'm like, okay, please stop. Like, just leave me alone. So I had that coming at me too.
Unwarranted advice. And a lot of that too, like, not to explain away, but people who are uncomfortable with the emotion that comes from hearing somebody be like vulnerable or upset, to soothe themselves, they offer solutions to that other person. And
Yep.
it doesn't make anybody feel good.
No, it's
So if you're
aggravating.
listening to this and you're like, oh, I do that, you just listen to them,
Right.
please, God.
Right. Yeah. No, I wanted so badly for someone to just like be empathetic and sympathetic and compassionate about what I was going through. Like I don't want to try and figure out anything right now. Like I literally just want to vent and talk to somebody about what I'm going through. And it was always met with, well, have you tried yoga? And I'm like, okay. So
Of course I have. Okay. I've tried everything to make
everything.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. Like I literally tried everything.
Why would you not try everything? Like to think that and again, so like that, also you can internal. So the hardest part I can imagine, and let me know if I'm on the money, as somebody who's got emotional wounds related to like judgment and ADHD and learning difficulties, hearing that stuff like opens up those emotional wounds you have surrounding this and like what you'd like to be able to do and what you'd want to do, and it's even further infuriating.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like you take it personally, deeply personally, because you have, how could you not? Like this is a part of you now. They don't know what you're going through, but it's like, why are you irritating me? Like you're irritating me. Yeah.
Right. And you're just like, you're kind of exactly what you said. You're reopening those wounds of things that I can't do,
Yeah. And you're trying to heal,
Right. And I hit that low point and I was like, I am going to start therapy.
Good on you.
I need someone that doesn't know me, that doesn't know shit about me, and someone that I can just vent to.
Yeah.
Like, we'll figure out if I have problems later, which I know I do, but
sure.
like, let's start with like figuring out how to deal with my chronic illness, and healing from that. And so I signed up for therapy, Talkspace. And I've been in therapy ever since. And then unfortunately, I think about 6-ish months later, maybe COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I am so glad that I had therapy, because having to stay inside and like be so scared of like what could potentially happen to me.
You have an autoimmune disorder, surrounded by people who are like thinking masks are political and refusing to get vaccinations and
right. Just like putting
oh my god
their themselves above just other people. Like it was just such a large amount of selfishness, and it was very aggravating. And it was very hard to deal with. And my partner works in the public service field, so they were out dealing with the public and helping the public, being around the public and sick people, and then coming home. And it was scary. It was really scary. And like I said, I'm so glad that I had therapy and that I had started, already, and was already kind of into it and everything, and trying to heal, because that was really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
Just realizing at that moment that the world is not built for disabled and chronically ill folks.
That is true.
It's not.
No.
And
even now, like with the whole with the government declaring that the pandemic is over, when this, when COVID is still mutating and it's going to be a fucking nightmare. And it's like, okay, well, it's not that COVID is over. It's that now all these private companies and insurance are going to take over the people who are, there are a lot of people in the disabled community that thank goodness for like TikTok existing, because the disabled community, Crutches and Spice, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No.
Fantastic creators, disabled person who speaks on, advocates for disabled people, but also calls like things what they are.
Oh yeah.
And they were explaining, like, oh, we're talking about COVID being a mass disabling event, because there's long COVID and people are like, doing all this stuff. And then she was just talking about how, like, you don't think that by the end of this, they're just going to let the private companies keep people disabled. Like, they're not going to cure this. That's not the prerogative. The prerogative is to make money. So like, if you need kits, you need masks, you need vaccines, like they all have to take the cost down now. And it's like, we didn't resolve anything with the pandemic. It's just the world in general does not care for disabled people. It's like, oh my God, I feel so bad forgetting about their name. I think it was Josh Neely, the homeless black kid who got choked out on the subway in New York. Like, that's a mental health situation. And it was first reported in the New York Times about how a ex-Marine choked this man to death, and it wasn't conveyed in that way at all.
No, oh no, the media doesn't.
They don't care, especially black, brown, person of color, disabled. Like, it's crazy to me that we live in a society where like that can't happen to me, you know. But we've just had we're still in a pandemic. We're still with this major disease that is disabling people, and you're saying that can't happen to me. It's so fucking weird to me that we have this, like, we're only as strong as our weakest link is how I understand it. And if we're not taking care of the people who need to be taken care of, or prioritizing accessibility for individuals who need it, then who succeeds? Right. The richest people in the world, and that's about it. I don't understand.
Which was kind of, and is very much the reality that is being shown to us. Yeah. Instead of kindness and, like I said, empathy and sympathy, and people trying to understand what disabled, chronically ill, mentally ill folks are going, it honestly made it worse. And I feel like we're even more stigmatized. And just stay home. Yeah. How am I? What you mean that I don't deserve to have a life outside of my home? Right. And let me tell you, I got COVID, and that was the worst I have ever felt in my entire life. I for real thought that I was dying. That was the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. I'm not even joking. And I made it through, and I'm thinking about the people who did not make it past that first couple of days. And I mean, a friend that I went to college with, her dad just passed away a couple of weeks ago from COVID. I just felt like we went in the opposite direction. No more empathy, no more sympathy during the pandemic, instead of trying to move forward with all of this understanding and empathy and sympathy. And it really freaking sucks. Yeah. And it's just made the reality of the world doesn't care. As long as they get to do whatever they want to do, that's all that matters.
Well, it's fine until they can't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, at no point, you're not immune to being dead, like to dying. Like, time comes for everybody, and when it comes down to like disease treatment and like death, viruses, all of these things, like, we don't handle it collectively as a community of people, because we are, and again, I'm not trying to get conspiratorial or anything like that, but it's just like there's so much investment in keeping everybody divided and separated. Oh, yeah. Because if we were united, very much like the Bug's Life movie, you know what I mean, with the cockroaches, like if they know how many there are in comparison to us, like there's gonna be a problem. It's like, I just can't help but think about that, because it's entirely based on, it feels like it's entirely based on decisions made out of fear. Because the further you separate yourself from somebody who is different than you, it's easier to cope and dehumanize them and make them like an other. It's like, I'll never be that. But it's like, I don't know about you, but COVID doesn't discriminate against anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Neither does Hashimoto's disease.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, these are things that like anybody can get, anybody can have, and have to live with, or not after, getting it. And it's frustrating to be in a world that doesn't take it seriously.
Right. And Konky, let me tell you right now, you could get in a car wreck tomorrow and lose both of your legs. You're disabled. Yeah. Your life is forever changed. Yep. It's completely different now. Yeah. And so they also don't realize that can also happen to them, as a disability, being disabled, being chronically ill can also take them just like that.
Yeah.
and then all of the mean things that they said and did and didn't care about.
Yeah.
They're facing it. You know, it's just people
without
like
any support at all.
Right. It's like, just, it's no, zero, none.
Yeah. Because it's one thing like to be on, like if you were on your own, right? And we had like so just to recap your story, like in brief, you spent most of your life being chronically ill, exhausted, thinking it was completely normal up until your late or mid 20s.
Yeah, I got diagnosed when I was 26. 25 so, going on 26.
Okay, so mid 20s. I
am 31.
Yeah, so your whole life, right? You've experienced this.
27, whatever.
Yeah, mid 20s. Okay, it's mid 20s. Yeah, math. So yeah, and the medical your medical practitioner took more than a year and a half to or it took you more than a year and a half to get proper diagnosis, treatment, and understanding of like what you were dealing with. When this, like, if we had a society that was very empathetic and understanding, and we had the medical free medical care for people to get diagnosed and treatment, this probably would have been caught much sooner, and you would have been probably in a better space than you are now. Right. That part of the grieving process, right, is like, you're like, dude, we could have been.
Right.
Like that whole process doesn't need to happen in the current structure that we have. And so like, that's what you end up advocating for. Right. And so like, why would anybody not listening to this hear this story and be like, that's fucking absurd. Like and then your mother finding out later, like, and she's, older than you. It's like, how is this sustainable? And the truth is that it's not. So like, how do we, like that? I think it's really hard when we're talking about like having hope, right? Obviously hope is what brought you out of like suicidal ideation and then into therapy. Finding hope every day is a practice, I feel like. And it's really hard to maintain that practice without like a support system. So when when the pandemic hit and you were dealing with like a world that was screaming very loudly, well, not the world, but let's say a lot of the negative voices were much louder than like the advocacy. How did you continue on? You had the tools from therapy that helped quite a bit, right? You have a partner and support system. So like, would you say those were like the main factors in you?
For sure.
Doing that and streaming too, right?
Right. Streaming, building a community. And then at the time, I felt like I owed little Ashley a lot.
I love that you said that.
Yeah, I did. I really did. And through therapy, like, I've learned to apologize to her for things that happened to her that were out of her control. Yeah. And just I felt like I owed it to little Ashlinaa to keep like trying and to do things, because I do truly feel that within my heart, like I'm meant for something great. I don't know what it is, but I want to keep pursuing that.
I can tell you what it is just from this conversation. And I'm sure this is just, I mean, I'm not trying to, be a weirdo here, but it just, but it seems like you are a very powerful voice and advocate for not only just Hashimoto's, but like forgiving. It sounds like you're forgiving yourself and all the judgment and all the like, past wants and needs, and just like pursuing whatever this new version of Ashlinaa is. That again, you're playing the cards,
right?
You could have tapped out. Like, that's a very light way of putting it, much earlier.
For sure.
But it sounds like you can inspire hope in a lot of people by having these conversations and being honest with the people that you like are in. I don't think when you're talking about this, it sounds like it's, sorry to interrupt.
Oh my gosh, no, keep going.
I was like, it sounds like there's this ideation of like something greater, and I feel like a lot of people, including myself, have gotten swept up in that. Like, you know, I feel inspired to share a perspective or share something, or like I feel like I could be something, like, and that something is so ambiguous. It doesn't like allow you to grab it ever, and that pursuit will like make you feel empty,
right?
Because in the pursuit you lose the, similar to what we were talking about with the artistry, the reward is the creation of that, like the process of creating is the reward. Whatever happens after that is entirely up to the universe to decide. Right. And when you get swept up in the reward, which is like, I'm going to be something, you could lose the actual reward. And there will always be this, like, the future holds very great things for me and all this other stuff, instead of like the daily practice of the creating.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. No, absolutely. And I think what we're talking about here is purpose. What is my purpose? Why am I here? You know,
to be an artist.
Right. To create things and to inspire people and to talk about the stuff that doesn't get talked about. You know, like I always, you know, tell my community, you know, like I'm going to be very honest with you, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And I mean, that's across the board on all of my socials, you know, like I feel like the world deserves honesty. I feel like it deserves realness. I feel like it deserves to see not the highlight reels.
Yeah.
And that's,
well, it needs to see people.
Right. People.
Yeah.
I want
the human
to be,
experience.
Right. I want to be a person for somebody. Like it might not happen while I'm alive, but you know, what if I pass on and one of my messages, you know, touch someone so much and they share it with somebody else, and then just on and on, the butterfly effect. Like that's,
you understand that's not a what if though. You do that. Right. You are doing that. Like that's the
I have a really hard time accepting compliments. If you haven't noticed that already.
I'm in the same space. Okay.
Right.
I think I talk to my negative self-talk is loud.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I understand why you can be so dismissive, because like growing up in a situation where you were told to like bring up your bootstraps. And again, I grew up in a very similar like household. My parents, my mom is a firstborn, like in America. Her parents were from Greece and came here. Right. You know.
Right. Same here. Yeah. Well, not Greece, but yeah.
Yeah. Colombian American, right?
Yeah. And Cuban.
And Cuban.
Yes.
So like, there's a lot of like, you know, we don't have the same. We're not the same as everybody who's here, so you have to work extra hard, and like there's no time to dilly dally, blah blah blah. But like, yeah, but they were just doing the best they could because that's what their parents did for them. Yeah, like all of the things that they were programmed to do, and like they just like I'm thinking about my grandparents, and they had 9 kids here. Like, how do you even 9 kids is crazy. Like, I can't even conceptualize what that's like in a house. And then I went, you know, I'm like thinking about how big my grandparents' house was in Melrose Park in Illinois. And I'm like, there's no fucking way 9 kids were here. And they're like, oh, we had to sleep on the floor. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's even crazier that you guys are this old now and successful. Like, but I'm like, okay, what I understand. We're at this point. Again, tangents, but like when you're understanding yourself further, you're also understanding like where they're coming from, and eventually you end up in a space where like there's a lot of empathy for like, I understand that you did not get to choose how you wanted to be and what you wanted to pursue. You felt you were obligated to, you know,
you felt you had no choice. Exactly.
Right. The things you agreed to, things that you didn't even understand weren't yours.
Right.
And so like now you are in a space where you found hope within yourself. You more than once every day, because like again, Hashimoto's, we're talking about autoimmune disease that depletes you of energy, and you come onto your stream and you're transparent and honest with people. They hear your message, and it's not about a what if. These people are hearing you, and the people that show up in your community and support you, they are hearing and probably relaying that message. How could they not? If you're being this honest and transparent in this conversation and you're doing this in doses on like your own stream, I can't imagine nobody is sharing that. They would have to tell you like, hey, I'm not sharing anything you're telling me about.
Hey, by the way, no.
Yeah.
That's my hope, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing it because honestly,
Please.
it's like it's a little bit lethargic for me too, because I get to just be myself.
Yeah.
I don't for a lot of my life, I'm still trying to break that, but like I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna mask whatever I need to do to make sure that you are happy. I don't have to do that anymore. You know, I can just be myself, and it feels so freeing, and it feels so good to just know that the people who are around me, like they're around me because they love me and they care about me. And like, it's not because I'm masked, it's because I'm me.
It's for you.
And that it feels really good, you know? And yeah, it feels really, really good. And you know, God, it was hard there for, and it's still hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, chronic fatigue is a type of tired that I can't even express to you. Like, it's soul deep tired. There's not any amount of sleep that I could ever get that will ever fix how exhausted I am.
You're just doing your best every single day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, it was really, really tough because my relationships changed as well. You know, my friends stopped inviting me places, stopped wanting to hang out, and, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
And going through therapy, I finally was like, listen, you're going to invite me everywhere. You're going to invite me to every party, every lunch.
Yeah. And
if I can't show up, I can't show up. But you're still going to make me feel like I'm included, because life is already moving past me very, very fast. And I feel like I'm in a constant catch up mode. Yeah. So you're going to invite me to places and you're going to make me feel included, because I already feel excluded from this world. And
it's called advocating for yourself.
Absolutely. I felt like through therapy that I was able to do that. And
I'm so glad you got that. That's so great.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, I think it's also important too, and this is like a really harsh reality, but it is important to realize, I had to realize what part I was playing in my own suffering too.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you're in your own head, right? So like every time you can't make it somewhere, there's that judgment. There's the, you know,
God, you lazy piece of shit. You know, like, oh my God, you know, like you seriously couldn't just like get up, you know, and it's like,
and it's constant. Kind of it's not, it doesn't just like happen in the moment. It is constant. Like, yeah. And oh my God, because it's the reason why it's constant is because you've practiced it for so long without awareness.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry.
It's an unconscious thing that we all do to ourselves all the time without even realizing. Negative self-talk, it just happens, you know?
Right.
But I also needed to sit down with myself and say, what part am I playing in my own unhappiness right now? You know? And it was like, I've gotten to the point now that, okay, let's try this. Don't automatically say, no, I can't like try this or do this. Like try it first.
Yeah.
And then let's decide, kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking workout classes twice a week now, you know, and like things like, I don't want to cut myself short because I have Hashimoto's, but I also want to be careful with myself because I do have Hashimoto's. I'm like learning that balance, but I really had to come within myself and say, what are you bringing to the table? You've got to be your own best friend through this. Right. And if you're constantly being mean to yourself and saying, I can't, you won't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, don't overexert yourself, but let's try to do new things, you know?
Yeah.
Which is why
I was just going to say, like, you're explaining this, when you're explaining this process, like when you get diagnosed, right, there's all this fear surrounding
Oh
like
my God,
what you
yes.
can and can't do. And so like a lot of the decision making you make, and this is true for people who don't have autoimmune disorders too,
Right. Oh yeah.
is you make decisions based out of fear.
Oh yeah.
And so like when you're talking about showing up for your best friend, it's like showing up as if you're your own best friend. It's like, are the decisions you making based out of love for
Right.
yourself?
Right.
And that's hard for us.
Oh
For the
yeah.
people who are like, I have a hard time accepting compliments like that. That is hard because that's again,
Yeah.
that's like a form of self-love. Like I don't want to baby myself. I'm not a baby,
Right.
but I'm just a little guy. That's my first
Right.
day. You know, like
Right.
you could do that.
I'm a little baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little lad,
Yeah.
you know, berries and cream.
Berries and cream.
It's been, and I'm so glad I have therapy and all just, you know, the outlets that I do have, because it's a lot easier now than it was. And I look back at the first month of me getting diagnosed, and I'm like, I am not that same person, you know? I still have, like a couple of weeks ago, I did go through, we go through grieving processes. I mean, grief is lifelong. I don't think that there's ever really a way to fully heal from that, because we are looking back at who we once were.
Yeah.
And man, I was traveling, I was working out twice a day, you know. I had the energy to do that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was doing all of these things, and now I might be able to do that, but I will absolutely exhaust myself and probably make myself sick. And I've done that before. I've pushed myself way too hard, and lo and behold,
a little bit too brave about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And lo and behold, that next week I'm sick, laying in bed for a week, and I'm like, okay, you know? So the grieving process doesn't stop, and I still find myself in those moments. Like, I mean, obviously a little while ago, we literally talked about my modeling journey, and I started crying, you know, like it's hard, but I just, like I said, I keep trying to show up for little Ashlinaa. I keep trying to just push.
Can I ask, so I want to ask more. I'm curious about the modeling thing, and this is more of like my hope for you is like, I know that the modeling situation did not work out because of the long hours and what was demanded of you, but because of the world we live in nowadays, it seems like you may be able to pursue modeling on your own terms and like reclaim that. Have you engaged in doing that, or is that something that you plan to do in the future, or is it something you're still trying to like process and decide how you're going to go about it?
That I'm still trying to figure out what I could possibly do. Like right now I still plan my own like mini photo shoots and stuff like that, and still try to find a way to like bring out that creativity. And I actually talked to my agent like not too long ago. And you know, I told her like, you know, I miss it. And she has told me multiple times, whenever you are ready to come back, you let us know. But now I'm like covered in tattoos, and I'm like, you know, like,
hey,
I don't know.
Tattoos are hot. Okay.
What could I do? You know, I'm just like, how do I approach this kind of thing?
Right.
I think is where I'm at, and fear, obviously, because
Yeah.
fear of rejection. Like, what if they're like, okay, like we didn't know you were covered in tattoos. Like, we don't know what we could do about that. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
Jenny, my agent, my ex-agent,
I don't
is just
know.
like, is such like an amazing person. So I'm sure I could talk to her. I guess I just have a fear of rejection kind of thing.
Maybe that's something that you work on.
And it is something I'm working on. And, you know, like I said, I'm doing my own like mini photo shoots here at home and like expressing my creativity. I'm always like looking for backdrops, and I actually have like a photo shoot that I'm setting up right now, you know.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And my best friend, Roxanne, she is a cosplay photographer. So I get to go and like dress up at her house and like, you know, do cosplay photography and like stuff like that.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely still trying to exercise the parts of myself that I love, you know, creatively. My brain just blanked for a second. What is English? Oh my gosh, that was horrible.
You're
Creatively,
fine.
I got it.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to express myself that way and still love myself through those processes, because I do look at some of those pictures. I'm like, dang, pretty cool.
Pretty
Like
cool. Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. And a funny little side story. So Roxanne and we were friends when we were like 9 to like 12, 13.
Okay.
And we were at the mall when I got scouted as a model for the first time. And so that was really cool. But also, like, I was like, I want to be a model. And she's like, and I want to be a photographer, and I want to do all of these things, play video games, we had like our dreams, and now like we're grown-ups and we're doing it right now. And it's just so cool to like get together with Roxanne and like have our dreams just coming true. And it's just so cool. It's just so cool. Yeah, Roxanne's absolutely incredible. So it's fun to do that. But yeah, I think fear is the part that's keeping me back from the conversation. But I keep like telling myself, like, you just need to do it,
Yeah. I think you can. I think, like, in this, especially in this world that we have, where like, again, there's a lot of bad stuff happening, but what I've also seen is when I see a lot of hope in terms of like the advocacy, the amount of information being spread amongst people, the stories and experiences from people sharing like both good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
The representation changes in like how people are portrayed on websites when you're buying clothes. Like, there's so much positivity around like the different kinds of people and bodies and beauty that is the human experience. Is it's not perfection, it's not Instagram Photoshop, it's not super skinny waist. Like, those are symptoms of like a really not corrupt, it's not the right word, it's corrupt in the sense of like false, like
trying to
untrue.
Normalize something that isn't normal.
Right. It does nothing but harm, both the people who are participating in and the people who are like intaking that information. Like, even like, just speaking as a man, okay, like the gender gap between physical dysphoria, body dysmorphia between men and women is now like, it's very close.
Oh yeah,
because we're surrounded by Instagram ads and people working out, like all this shit. Six packs,
blah,
yeah. And then it's just it's I think like part of the perfectionism that plagues a lot of us in the creative space, that's part of the fear as well, because you're like, okay, I have all these tattoos, like I'm not as fit as I used to be, like, and I have Hashimoto's disease, so like you can make a lot of excuses or decisions made out of fear. I hope, and I'm excited to, I don't think it's a matter of like you not doing it. I think it's just, the time is right for you. And I'm excited for when that happens. I think you're in full swing of practicing.
Oh yeah.
Of like,
And whether or not it's professionally, like with a signed agency or not, I will always be doing photo shoots and doing that like creative thing. You know what I mean? I don't feel that I need to be signed to pursue that, and like show off. And the fun thing too is like I met a lot of photographers through, modeling and everything, and they still like working with me, which is really cool. So I get to do like little photo shoots here and there. But yeah, I do have a little bit of fear, piercings, tattoos and things like that. But you were talking about inclusivity and representation through the pandemic and everything, that has also changed in the modeling world. We now see plus size modeling. We now see more representation as far as, Latinas and people of color. Because when I first got signed when I was 13, my agent, the first thing he told me was that I needed to lose 10 pounds. I was 13 years. I don't even think I had boobs yet. You know what I mean? Like I was like 13 years. That was really hard to hear. And also
from an adult, by the way, an adult man told a 13-year-old, fucking disgusting.
Yeah. And then yeah, and looking through like his portfolio that he had of his models, it was all blonde hair, blue eye, like everyone.
Maybe a bias. Maybe he had a bias.
So
gross.
Going into the modeling space at that age was really hard. It was really hard because not only am I like 13, like freaking trying to figure out myself and what the heck is life and like what's going on, but also like I'm jumping into this space that is just so stereotypical, you know, and so a lot of stigmas and
you're
like
13
whatever.
too, so like you're open to
saying.
like all of these weird fucking and that was before Instagram and shit like was in full swing, so you didn't even have that extra layer of social media like behind it, and having these like wrong, untrue bodies perpetuated across you know, more than just like what you were experiencing physically. So
and I mean that was at 13, you know, I learned like how to starve myself and like all this stuff, you know. It was just it was rough, you know, and I remember doing it for, I don't even know how long I did it, but I told my mom, I was like, I just need a break, like this is a lot for me, you know. And she's like, I think that's a very mature decision, you know. I think maybe, you know, it's time to focus on school and maybe do some sports or something, like, you know, just like walking me through the process. And I was like, yeah, like maybe I'll do that, you know. So, and then getting signed again and just like social media world, everything's different, I'm accepted and but also not, and like all this stuff, like it was a lot. But through the pandemic, you know, I feel like it's changed and there's still so much work to be done within the modeling world, but I think it is going in a great direction. And that's what also gives me hope to talking to my agent. Because even if I wouldn't be able to do like the things that I want to do, because my favorite is high fashion. So like all of the weird poses and like the weird outfits, weird makeup, weird hair, like very high fashion. That's what I like to do.
Okay.
And that's what I feel like I'm really good at. I should send you some pictures. Maybe I'll send you some pictures. That's
I need
my
them for a
favorite thing to
thumbnail.
do.
So
Hey, I got you. So, you know, high fashion is my favorite, but like if I'm not able to do that, maybe I can do some other things that I still enjoy, like beauty. Because like I take care of my skin, you know, or whatever, you know. So
also like you can help with the environment, right? Because like we were talking about how like the modeling's 12 to 14 hours, right? Which you'd have to set limits and advocate for yourself in the space. Be like, I can only be here between this certain time, but also like you could bring that energy in to the space. Like, I don't know. It's just, it seems like there'd be a lot of good, positive, sustainable, accessible things that you could bring to the table.
Oh, absolutely. And I will say one of my last shoots before I did have to kind of like, okay, it's time to rest now and figure out my life and what's going on and my mental health and everything like that. I did get to talk about it a little bit. And I did say like, you know, you're okay. Yeah. Every 4 hours, is that okay if I take like 30-minute break or something like that? Because like I need to stretch, I need to try and eat something, I need to try and like take some vitamins, like something, you know, a supplement or something. And I got to talk about that and it was really nice. And right before I left as well, my agent, her best friend got diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. So then she really understood what was going on because she was seeing it firsthand with her best friend. And she was like, she just understood, and a lot of empathy and sympathy and just love. And I just adore Jenny so much. And so I'll get there. I'm just like, I'm scared.
I think well, again, like, I mean, I hope you do. I think it's something that you could bring a lot of good to. I think I think the people in just modeling in general, especially when we're talking about like everything that's been standard in that industry for a really long time, I think like representation breeds innovation, right? So like I think like when you're talking about like I'm meant for something, maybe this is what it is, because you do a great job of doing it on stream, and to have somebody in a space where like there are no advocates for, you know, people who need time and like breaks and all this stuff in this industry. or just the physical representation too. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
this is what Hashimoto's disease looks like.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
like that's
And
great.
this is so great that you're talking about it, because I have had the desire to email. It's always been like a dream of mine to be in Sports Illustrated. I don't know why, just like representation, because they've always been about representation from the get-go, you know, like from the beginning. They have really set the tone for what being a woman really looks like, you know. And so I've thought about sending a little email over and talking about my story and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe it's time, you know.
Maybe it is. I'm here to root you on.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, like I said, I'm at the point in my journey now where it's like, let's try things, but don't push yourself too hard, you know, because we do need to rest. But I'm telling everyone, and I'm telling you right now, I will always be doing something creatively.
I believe you.
whether it's vlogging, which I just started a new vlogging TikTok, you know, and started sharing like that more IRL side of myself, and things like that, you know, like I will always be doing something creatively because it's such a huge part of me and I love it, and I just like feast off of it, and it just makes my soul so happy. So,
well, it's a part of you being an artist.
My soul,
you know, I think it's like DNA level deep too. You have like artists in your family, right? So like there's
100%.
There's this burning desire to create, and like whether the creation is like I want an energy to go out into the world, and it's like how do I manifest this or physically like bring it into the space, or how do I talk about it, you know, like I think that desire, that burning passion is something that also is a really great way to counteract the exhaustion that comes with Hashimoto's, because like you can't, the soul being set on fire, light your soul ablaze, anime nerds out there. I think that desire is one of the best, coolest feeling. It's why we're here today. Why I decided I was going to do the show like this offline, because I don't want any distraction. I have to accommodate my ADHD. I'm like, I'm not my best when I have all of this stuff and we're live and there's an audience, like here, one-on-one, like we're having a discovery conversation. None of this was scripted. I had a lot more about like, you know, family and stuff like that. But like I feel like the value of where the conversation was, where we got here today, was just way better like than my original intention. And this is my strength. I love fucking talking to people. I love understanding them. I love being able to ask clarifying questions. I like understanding people, because I felt so misunderstood most of my life. And I'm like, do you feel heard? You know, can I encourage you to pursue your passions? Can I have an authentic conversation with you without really knowing who you are, like as a friend would, you know? And I like, thank you again for coming on here and sharing all of this personal stuff as somebody who doesn't know you. Like you're a testament to the transparency and honesty, and love that you have for yourself, being so open about all of this stuff. It's very difficult to be in this space. I know you said you came a long way from where you were, but like from somebody who doesn't know you, it sounds like you are doing great. And I'm sure I don't know if anybody has told you this before, but thank you for existing.
Aww.
And bringing that energy into this space. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
You're gonna make me freaking cry, you little turd.
I got a little teary eyed at the end there. I'm just like I like, these are the things that like I don't know. I've never been able to feel like I can say that stuff and be confident about it until recently, you know, because like I had a lot of dismissive, and I don't want to make it all about me. Of course, like the conversation is for you, but for anybody who's an artist and feels like this passion that they have to like share themselves or share something with the world or a skill with the world. I spent a lot of time casting judgment on me and adopting agreements for streaming, for example. I adopted a lot of things that I thought would make me successful, and I got swept up in more about like the monetary or like the numbers reward, and I had forgotten why I had entered this space to begin with, and it was to talk with people. I wanted to understand people. Streaming is cool, don't get me wrong, but this right here, like sharing perspective and information with you, and you being you sharing your, like, how else would I be able to like enrich my life by like without listening to other people? I don't know what it is about that. I think it's like some sort of like old tribal, like DNA level, like Greek thing, maybe, like, you know what I mean, like the philosophy and sharing stories. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like this is where I should be, and I just need to be here, like encouraging people and talking with people. So again, thank you for being here. Yeah.
No, absolutely. If something sets your soul on fire and you feel that so deeply, this is where you're meant to be. I think it is absolutely worth pursuing. Absolutely. I mean, life is already so short, and you know, I tell my community all the time, you know, no doesn't mean no. Like, it just means that there's something better for you, you know, and just keep going. And you know, I also want to use this moment to touch on, when you are real and you are honest with yourself but also with your community, like me being, I guess, an advocate, I'll call myself an advocate, you know, like, and explaining to them what this all means for my life. Anytime I say like I need a break or I need to take a couple of days off, they absolutely 100% understand. There's no judgment, there's no hate, there's nothing, there's just all love, you know. And I think it's so important that when you are building these spaces and you are building these communities, that you understand that it is a reflection of you, but also to be raw and real. Raw and real.
I think like having any authentic part of yourself like helps with the energy that you bring to it too. Like when you're trying to be somebody you're not, that in itself creates conflict within you, and that conflict is exhausting. Burnout, you know, burnout is the first thing that comes to mind. And that cycle of burnout is very hard to catch too, because you could be in a cycle of burnout for months
and not even know
what's going on.
Yeah. So that ended up, so last year was a heavy pursuit of Twitch partnership for me. I forgot about that. Yeah. I really wanted it as a Latina. You know, I really wanted that representation. I really wanted to, first of all, I've been streaming for 8 years. It was like, oh, okay, like, I should have it by this time. You know, like I kept telling myself that.
Yeah, you felt deserving. Yeah.
Right. And last year, October, I had a mental breakdown because I wasn't doing what was authentic to me.
Yeah.
I was being someone and doing something that wasn't. That's not why I started streaming. I started streaming because I was alone. I wanted to make friends. I was depressed. I wanted a creative outlet. I didn't start streaming to become a partner.
Right.
You know what I mean? So always remember your why.
Yeah. And it's okay for that why to change too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As we grow, it is going to change, you know.
It's part of the human process. Yeah.
Right. But I think the one thing that will always remain the same is I just want to inspire people to do cool things. And that's why I have motivationals. Like, how do you stay motivated through life's hardest challenges, you know?
Yeah. Let's get into that chapter really quick, because you took a hiatus from that for a bit, right? And now it's on its way back. Did you have your first episode already?
No, not yet.
It's scheduled though.
Yeah. So I have my guest list, and now it's just getting with them and their schedules and saying, when can we do this? But I'm hoping that the videos and everything and it was going to be pre-recorded. It's not going to be live anymore, because also I like to sit down and talk with people as well. So I'm hoping to get those pre-recorded and out by like fall, winter time.
Awesome.
I'm not going to rush myself.
I don't think you should.
Yeah. No.
Quality, not quantity. Yeah.
Exactly. And I just, motivational is a really cool thing for me too, because it helped me do a lot of healing when I was going through what I was going through. You know, it was so awesome to hear how people stay motivated through life's hardest challenges, and you know, sharing their message of strength and sharing their message of, you know, how they just keep going. So it was really so I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I think this is a good spot to end. I wanted to talk just a real brief. Where can people find you? I know that you have a stream team, Cafe Cultivar.
Yes.
What any big plans going on with the stream team? Any new streams coming up? Like, feel free to share any social media stuff you got. Whatever.
Okay. Sev is here. So yeah, Cafe Cultivar, that is a team that I started last year, a little passion project. Also, an apology to little Ashlinaa for the things that she went through as a kid. And it's a team of all Latina folks doing some cool things. We are currently in the process of getting some TTRPG games going.
Nice.
For our Twitch channel. So we're getting signups ready for that so we can start running those once a month on the channel. As far as me, I am currently playing through Horizon Zero Dawn for the very first time.
Cool.
On stream, and I'm absolutely I'm fiending. I have things that I have to do today, but I just want to stay home and play Horizon Zero Dawn and stream.
It's a great game.
But oh my God, I was not expecting the beauty of it, but also the mix of, I called it prehistoric, and I don't know if that's really the right term, but this caveman kind of vibes and
it's
feels
prehistoric. It's a prehistoric vibe, you know. It's
Okay.
it's not actually prehistoric, but
okay, I just want to make sure that I'm using the right terminology and I'm not being disrespectful. So that kind of vibe, and also the futuristic vibe of the robots and stuff. I'm
technological, prehistoric technological. Yeah.
Who thought of this? I love you. You know, it's so great, and just
It's thought-provoking.
Aloy's story so far, it's just I got very emotional through the first part of my playthrough because I see a lot of myself in her determination, her strength, and her saying, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna win.
We love strong women in video games, guys.
I feel that within myself about life. I want to do this thing, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me. Ashlinaa across socials, ASHLINA.
You don't gotta spell it. All the links will be below.
Ashlinaa across the board. I do all sorts of stuff, y'all. Seriously, I like to do it all. I like to express myself in all sorts of ways. I feel like that's a part of me, so that's what I do.
Well, thank you for expressing yourself and sharing your perspective here.
Absolutely.
This has been the Exp Talk Show. Thank you, Ashlinaa, for being here. And I look forward to talking with you again.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll happen again.
Can we tell everyone where we met?
Oh,
do you remember?
No, I don't remember. Oh yeah, it was Scarathon. I was a fucking monster during that time. I don't honestly, I was not in a good spot mentally.
Oh, well, we met through Scarathon.
Yes. Scarathon is a great event.
And event, charity event, and we connected over SpongeBob.
Oh my God. Okay, yes, that's when I knew.
Yeah.
Okay, so we both agreed. Especially, I remember this conversation because if you quote SpongeBob to me, and it's not one of not the most quotable quotes, that's how I know you're a quality person, quality human being. It means you've got something going on in your brain that makes you a very fun person. I don't know what it is, but SpongeBob just
the joy of my life, truly and honestly.
Yes.
It really, yes. Love SpongeBob with my entire being, truly.
Yes. So with that, hoi min yoi min yang, hoi min yang mi moi mi yang.
Hoi manoi manoi noi noi noi. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
I
Ash.
agree. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great day, everybody. If you like the video, like, subscribe, click all those links for Ashlinaa. Follow her on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. Where else?
TikTok.
Follow Cafe Cultivar. I can't roll my R's. Cultivar.
Yes.
Way
It's okay.
way better. On Twitter as well. And yeah, again, all those links are in the below description. If you have any questions about the video, anything like that, feel free to leave a comment. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your experience, and I'll see you on the next episode, guys. Bye.
Bye.